good?
Red, that's what I look for.
Okay, ACI 17 Class 8. So you know we're in the course review of the, basically of the Vinaya. We call them vows. We refer to them as guidelines, but they're really reference points on how to put the causes into place for happiness for you, basically. Do you remember last class we left off with the 5, sometimes they're called 5 precepts, sometimes they're called the lifetime layperson's vows. And I know most of you can just rattle them all off, but you know, all of them have a common denominator. They all actually, and they're considered like the advanced vows, right? They're considered the highest of those Vinaya vows in a way. If you're going to put a hierarchy to them, they're really very, very crucial vows. But if you think about it, they have in common, all of them, the common denominator of no harm, of not hurting, which happens to be the very first non-virtue, right? Or the very first restraint in the Yoga Sutra, in the yoga philosophy, yogic philosophies. So it's really interesting. So it's kind of interesting to look at how it is that those 5 are about non-hurting. Well, if you steal something, because one of them is to not steal, right? To not take anything that's not, anything of value that's not freely given. Well, if you steal, you harm by impoverishing another, right? To cause them to be without something that they value. If it's something that you take that they would miss, right? If you lie to someone, in a way you've taken away the truth from them, right? In a way you've taken away reality from them. So all of these, don't steal, don't kill, don't lie, don't sleep with people that you shouldn't be sleeping with, they're all hurtful. They all cause harm. And then that last one, the no intoxicants, hurts you, right? There's a really interesting karma to the intoxicant thing. And it's taking intoxicants, especially if we're in the desire realm and we abuse them. This is all about addictions, right? It can lead to stupidity. So if you want to be intelligent, honor precept number 5, right? In a way, you can kind of call it instant karma, right? Like if you kind of go on a bender. But the karma of putting yourself in a hazy, intoxicated state over and over and over is that it results in your own mind being literally unintelligible. So if you're interested in increasing your spiritual IQ, then stop taking intoxicants and practice good worldview. And your IQ will go up because you're planting the karma for that. Wrong view also, you know, it's not one of the 5, but obviously to do any of them you'd have to have wrong view, is a very direct cause for stupidity also. And we're talking stupidity in the sense of complete ignorance, right? Like it's the opposite of wisdom. So with the Vinaya, did we talk about who can take the vows yet? Who can, yeah, and who cannot take the vows. I don't know if we actually went through the laundry list of who can't, but in ACI 9 you get quite a detailed laundry list of who cannot take vows. The common thing with all of that, there's many, many beings who cannot take vows. Doesn't mean they can't physically attempt to take them, but they won't stick. They won't take, is what the scriptures say. And just quickly, hermaphrodites, neutered people are exempt from being able to take vows because their pranic plumbing isn't working. It's not, there's something missing. There's a strength and a vitality that's missing. Interestingly enough, a vasectomy doesn't count because the essential plumbing was there to begin with, so the pranic energy is there. In the ancient texts, they also say, they assume that you were able to change your sex very easily because they say that you can change it up to 2 times and you're okay, but if you change it 3 times, can't take your vows. It's mentioned, so it must have been happening, fairly regularly. It's always interesting to contemplate that one. They actually go into quite a bit of detail about that in the Vinaya course because, in modern day you can't have a fully ordained nun in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition because there was a king historically who massacred enough nuns to break the minimum quorum needed to make a new fully ordained nun. And there is something in the Vinaya texts or in the ACI 9 course that says that if it was a fully ordained monk who changed sex once, they would be a fully ordained nun. So that could be one way, but I can't report that to you. I haven't seen it happen or heard of it happening. There is also often, especially in this day and age, the question that comes about homosexuality. Because we're talking about the energy of eunuchs and hermaphrodites and all of that as being not qualified, right? And so now, historically, culturally, ancient India, ancient anywhere, I think it's in Catholicism too, like a lot of times homosexuality is not accepted or is not perceived as worthy of divinity somehow. Our lineage, our teachers beg to differ, actually, and Geshe Michael has actually taught that gay people are in a way more privileged towards enlightenment because they have a better balance of male and female energies, which is really what we're going for anyways. That doesn't mean that just because you're gay, you're more enlightened. That's not what we're saying. But you're actually energetically set up to be open to that if you have the karma for that to ripen in that way. Because as you get closer to Buddhahood, your male and female energies are going to be balancing more and more and more. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but I notice in our lineage that a lot of women are very strongly balanced with their male energy, and a lot of men are very strongly balanced with their female energy. It has nothing to do with sexuality or not. It just has to do with energy. So, you could argue that a gay person is further along the spectrum, but ancient cultures would not have accepted that. So, our teachers say maybe it's time to update that viewpoint. Another example of a person who cannot take vows is someone who does not believe in karma, does not believe in rebirth, or does not believe in the 3 jewels. I mean, that's kind of logical, right? Like, if you truly do not, if you unequivocally say does not exist, then that totally is basically wrong worldview. And why would you be taking vows anyways if you strongly believe those things, right? You have to have at least some recognition of the possibility of past and future lives, even if you can't prove it. Just know that you can't disprove it. Like if you have that openness to the possibility, in fact, you really need some openness to that possibility for karma to make any sense at all. Because otherwise, then it would not explain why bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people, if it was limited to the sphere of this one lifetime. So, according to scripture, you do have to believe in past and future lives to be identified as Buddhist. Okay, so that's just a really short summary of beings who aren't qualified to take vows. We talked about, what qualifies you to take vows last time. So here's 5 things that can cause any of the vows of individual freedom, the pratimoksha vows, to be lost. One is that you actually give them back. You go back to your vow master and you explain that you are giving them back. This is not something you can do by email. And or I don't even think Skype counts, even though that's a little bit more face-to-face than before. But they say you should be there in person. The second way to lose your pratimoksha vows is when you die. Pratimoksha vows are only for the immediate lifetime. Bodhisattva vows, by the way, continue, but for the most part, we don't remember having taken them before, so it's a good idea when you're ready to retake them, right? Mm-hmm. And with the bodhisattva vows, you can refresh them, even if you do remember the last time you took them. But pratimoksha vows only last for one lifetime at a time. Another way you can lose your vows is kind of to that rule about who can't take vows. Remember I said if you change your sex, your gender 3 times? So they say that that disqualifies you. You lose if you had vows before you changed your sex 3 times, you would lose them upon the 3rd changing. That's according to the ancient texts. And the 5th way you can lose your vows is to lose what they call your core of virtue, your storehouse of merit. And this actually goes back to understanding where things come from to begin with. And it's because of emptiness and because everything that's happening to you is a projection coming from you, that if you were to lose your core virtue, like if you were to do something so heinous as to lose any good causes that you had planted, then automatically you would be disqualified from your vows, right? So they're talking about one of the classic examples they give us is how this can happen is anger at a bodhisattva. But here's the thing, and Lamaji qualifies that you would have to recognize, like we say that you don't, the way we keep this vow with the concentric circle is to say, the way to lose your core of virtue is to be angry at a bodhisattva, and you don't know who a bodhisattva is. So you might as well hedge your bets and just not get angry, or not be, not get angry to the point where you would say or do something in anger to anyone, because you don't know. But the reality is, if you know about the 4 chains of karma, the whole full karmic, the full karmic path, you really do have to recognize your object. Mm-hmm. You do. So they do say that you can lose your core of virtue by having anger at a bodhisattva. You should hedge your bets by understanding that you don't know who is a bodhisattva, because remember, a full-on bodhisattva would have reached the 1st level, they would have had their DPE, and if they had, they don't tell you. So you don't know. But on the other hand, to truly, truly, truly lose it, you would have to recognize the object and really intend to have that burning, holding anger, right? It is a good one you can take to the debate ground, though. Flesh that one out.
I only heard 4. I didn't hear 5.
So what's the first one you heard?
Give them back to the vow master in person. Number 2, when you die.
Yeah.
Number 3, if you change your gender 3 times.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Number 3 was if both sexual organs appear on your body. I forgot to tell you that one, which is separate from changing your sex 3 times.
So both private parts have to be on you at the same time.
That's right.
Androgynous, what is that? I'm not sure.
The opposite of androgynous, I think, or hermaphrodite. Is that a hermaphrodite?
Oh, how do you write that then?
Hermaphrodite.
H-E-R-M.
Yeah, H-E-R-M-A, P-H-R-O-D-I-T-E, I think is how you spell that.
Okay.
Bless you. The ancient texts get very specific. That's how you can lose your vows. But if you keep your vows, there are 2 really, really great results. One, remember we're speaking out of the Vinaya, which is a a lower school text. It's the Abhidharma, right? So this is where keeping your vows protects you in a way that you will always have a favorable rebirth, because that is the motivation at that level, right? You want to stay out of the lower realms and you want to have favorable rebirth so that you can keep doing the work that you need to get to enlightenment. So the first result of keeping your pratimoksha vows, which is a very strong motivator at this level, is that you would get favorable rebirth, either as a human or a pleasure being, they say, and of course we're shooting for human if we have to have a rebirth at all, right? But ultimately, if you keep your vows, the texts say, you attain one of the 3 kinds of enlightenment. You guys should all be bouncing up and down going, what do you mean 3 kinds of enlightenment? Isn't there like, what, is there like a small, medium, large enlightenment? Or is there a better, worse, or mediocre enlightenment? Like, what's up? Isn't enlightened enlightened?
Well, there's nirvana.
Different tracks.
So there's only one that is really enlightenment, but they do call nirvana, yes, Leonardo, they call nirvana a form of enlightenment, but it's not full enlightenment. And there are 2 tracks of nirvana. So there's the listener track, the self-made Buddha track, and both of those are Hinayana tracks. And then there is the Bodhisattva, or the Mahayana track. And only on that track, where you have the altruistic motivation of getting yourself and everyone else to enlightenment, do they then have the end goal of full-on Buddhahood. Okay? But keeping your vows, you attain one of those 3, and any one of those would be really, really great, because say you happen to get on a Hinayana track and you got to full nirvana, I mean, you'd be set, right? Because what is nirvana? It's the cessation of your mental afflictions. If you have no mental afflictions, you cannot be committing the negative karma that would propel you lower. So you would always be moving forward, right? Yeah. And then this course goes into a really, really sweet part on karmic correlations, which I always am personally very interested about. So interested that I taught a full fall curriculum on karma. And we're gonna start new ones in the new year. But there are 4 different types of karmic consequences, as explained in Jetsun Kappa's Lam Rim Chenmo. Do you guys remember the Lam Rim Chen? You know Lam Rim, step to the past. Chenmo is the great. Yeah, the great Lam Rim. Okay, so the first of the 4 different types of karmic consequences is called ripening. This is the first of the 4 different types of karmic consequences. Ripening is the type of rebirth that you would get. And really, it's the karma, the ripening karma is what throws you into either a human birth or into one of what they call the lower births, like animal or hungry ghost or hell, and then the more favorable, human and up, more favorable pleasure beings, right? Those types. So the ripening karma consequence, so whatever rebirth you end up in that moment is a ripening. And then the second one is a consistent consequence, where and this is probably what we more commonly think of when we think of karma. This is where we get similar results. This is that karmic rule, bad to bad, good to good, right? When we get a good result, we know that it's a consistent consequence. If you harm somebody, harm will come to you, stuff like that, right? There's a consistency to the consequence. The third thing is the tendency to do it again. Karma is self-replicating. It's a habit. Another way to think of karma is to think of your habits. And the way that you always do things, that is karma. That is a karma. Which is why it's so hard sometimes to break a downward cycle, because we're so habituated into doing it over and over and over. And we even hear people say that, right? I am angry like as if they identify with anger, not I have anger. We never say I have anger. We say I am angry, right? So it's the tendency. And the fourth one is the environmental consequence. I always found this really interesting when I first learned about it. Because I always understood karma, like my results that I experience in terms of something happening to me, but my world, but no, that's, how do you think you got your world, right? Yeah, it's the, every part of your environment is caused by karma. There is a karma for this deep freeze that we're having out there and the snow-capped mountains and the beautiful sunshine that has accompanied it, right? There is. I don't know exactly what it is, but there is specifically a karma for each of those components, right? So what I am going to give you, though, are the classic 2 karmic consequences for each of the 10 non-virtues. Because this is useful. This is really useful to know. So this, you'll get to review again the 10 non-virtues. So the first one is do not kill, right? No killing. So the consistent consequence, remember, is the similar results, right? So the consistent consequence of the karma of killing is that your lifespan will be short and you will be in bad health. You get sick a lot. The environmental consequence of killing is that all the things in your world that should be giving you nourishment and protection, like food and drink and medicine and even the crops that you get to feed yourself, have very little power, have very little nourishment, have very little efficacy. And they're always somehow either inferior or really difficult to digest. Or they cause disease in you.
That so fits.
Well, it fits a lot of diseases. It fits a lot of debilitating diseases. I mean, I haven't heard so much of gluten intolerance than in the last 2 or 3 years. Like, it's just, when you think about it, it's interesting, just as much as in conversation with all of you know who Karen Husak is. She's the teacher here. She's also a kindergarten teacher. There's been this real sharp increase in children diagnosed with learning disorders and ADD and I mean, they label the different labels come in and out of vogue, but these things that were not easily diagnosed seem to be rampant. And then when I think about the intolerances that people have to wheat and to dairy and to it's interesting. I have a friend who can't eat the skin of apples. She can eat the inside, but she gets a little bit of this and she needs an EpiPen.
Wow.
An apple, right? I mean, I may be exaggerating, but I definitely know she can't eat the skin. So it's this of all things should be healthy, right? Maybe not so much this, but it's just like that though. It's the karma for that is, now my friend happens to be the kindest person I know, so I know that it's an old karma that's ripening, and because of her current kindness, she doesn't have a debilitating disease around it, but still, it's a karma, right? So the environmental, that's the environmental of the first non-virtue. Second one, do I remember the second non-virtue? No stealing. No stealing. Yeah. So the consistent consequence is that you will always have shortages in your life. Not enough to live on, or what you do have is not really yours, it's common property, or you don't have exclusive rights to it. Maybe you live somewhere where you have to share the phone with someone who lives down the hall, or you have to share a kitchen, or, it's, And it's not your choice to do that, right? Like you would prefer that it wasn't that way, but that's what your karma is ripening as. Environmental, again, back to crops and nourishment, they're either the crops ripen too soon and spoil, or you're in an area that has too much drought or too much rain, so then there's flooding, and there is this, you can't get what you need, is the result of stealing. The third misdeed, sexual misconduct, the consistent result is that you're surrounded by people who are unworthy and inconsistent and unreliable. And that kind of makes sense, right? If you fool around on your partner, you are unreliable to your partner. So that would eventually come back as other people being unreliable for you. Or you will experience a lot of competition for whoever it is that you want to be with. Environmentally, the place is filthy and it stinks. And there's pollution, or it's just, generally speaking, very unpleasant, distasteful. The fourth non-virtue, so those were the three of the body, and then we have four of speech. So lying, the consistent karmic consequence is that people are always deceiving you. That kind of makes sense, right? You deceive others, they deceive you. This is interesting though, nobody believes what you say, even if you're telling the truth. And the environmental consequence is that, this is interesting, projects that you start fail. Or people in your work environment or around you can't seem to get along. The place that your environment is also very dangerous. That is actually something that comes up a lot in any of these non-virtues, but it's particularly noticeable with lying. Okay, the next one of speech, divisive speech, where you're trying to divide people with your speech, right? Putting a wedge between people. The consistent result is that people around you are always fighting. And that they are divisive, they're dividing, and that they are undesirable. The environment is interesting. You know, for lying we said just dangerous and unreliable. This one is, for divisive, the ground is uneven. And traveling is difficult between one place to another. And there's lots of things to be afraid of. Number 6, which is the third of the 4 verbal misdeeds, is harsh speech. It's where your speech hurts others. It doesn't mean you have to be yelling. It doesn't even mean you have to be swearing. You can even be saying something that's actually sounding quite sweet, but it hurts. That could still be harsh speak. Karmic correlation is that you will be forced to hear unpleasant things, or the sounds that you hear will be unpleasant to you. You know, they give the example of a leaf blower right outside of when you're trying to be quiet, but I have to say, you know, it's empty, right? One of my lamas talks about one of the best meditations they ever had was when they were all ready to settle down. Their neighbors are usually only living next door, like, I don't know, 1 month out of the year or something. Happened to be in the middle of winter, and they immediately set their snowblower going, like immediately. But my lama had the best meditation ever because they had something to push up against, right? So again, like, not from its own side, right? But again, if that sound, so good karma, not the karma of harsh speech. But if you do have that karma ripening, then that same sound will be like nails on a chalkboard, or just really, really irritating to you, right? Environmentally, for harsh speech, the ground is covered with obstacles, like things are in your way, or there's broken glass and prickly things. Again, the earth can be parched, or there's no beauty, no babbling brooks or bucolic hills, right? Like it's all very unpleasant. And then number 7, the last of the misdeeds of speech, which is, I think, one of the most insidious, the idle speech, the wasted speech, gossip, talking about other people's problems just for the entertainment factor. Reciting mantras without thinking of them, that's what we have to be careful of as we get deeper into our practices. The consistent karmic consequence. See, if you keep talking where there's no correlation between your words and your actions, it will come back as no one respecting what you have to say. And this is an interesting one. If you're ever afflicted by low self-esteem or self-doubt, it is the ripening of idle speech. And you know, Lamaji pulled up a stat that something like 10% of North American women are on some kind of antidepressant, and that is the karmic result of idle speech. See, the karma cam is always on. The karma of seeing yourself, saying things that have no value, comes back as you feeling you have no value. The best antidote for this is to make your words count, to be very aware of what the words are that you are saying. Like, don't do the let's do lunch thing. That actually means I'm never going to see you again. You know, it's like if you say let's do lunch, then let's do lunch, right?
So be your word.
Be your word. Yeah. I'm going to quote Lamaji, don't promise anything with your mouth that your body can't catch. Yeah. But when they say, I think in your vow book, sometimes they'll say as the antidote, meaningful speech. And sometimes you think, well, does it mean I have to be sounding like Mother Teresa every time I talk? No, you just have to mean what you say. And, you know, and speak of things that are useful and helpful. And this is really interesting. With anyone who has been studying this for a while and you're in conversation, you'll see a lot of half-started sentences. You'll see a lot of, oh, actually, never mind. You know, because they've caught that thought, right? It's a good thing. Okay, then the last 3 of the non-virtues are the misdeeds of the mind.
Environmental.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is similar to one we had earlier where crops don't ripen at the same time. See, there's no correlation between when they're supposed to be ripening and when they do. Or they may look... Excuse me. I have all sorts of stuff. Thank you. The karma of talking too much. There's no correlation. You know, the fruit might look really, really appetizing, then you bite into it and your whole mouth goes hairy. Have you ever had that feeling of when you eat an unripe fruit, your teeth seem itchy? Yeah, like that. And they say that in your environment, there's no place to rest. There's no parks or cool water. That was similar to another one, but again, these are all the ones of speech, right? So there will be some similarities. Okay, and then the 3 misdeeds of the mind. So coveting, being unhappy at someone else's happiness. This is really a bad one for a bodhisattva because we're supposed to vow to be responsible for everybody's happiness. So when we see someone being happy, if we feel even any modicum of either, gee, I wish I had that, which means I wish they didn't, I wish I had it, even if you don't actually want what they have, it's really, really not a good thing. So the consistent karmic cause, this is, by the way, this is the karma for addiction. This tendency to be unhappy when other people are happy is the little tiny acorn that will grow into the oak tree of a major addiction. So it's your personality will be dominated by desire because you want things, right, that you can't have. The antidote is to rejoice. Take any opportunity. And even if the immediate ripening is this little feeling, remember how last time I said a feeling will come up and you can't deny it. It's coming up. But acknowledge it and do something about it. Like, don't react to the negative ripening. Acknowledge it for what it is and then do the antidote. So if you feel yourself having coveting tendencies towards someone, then take extra care to be really, really stoked about whatever it is that they got, whatever it is that they've succeeded in or achieved or received, right? Environmentally, the karmic cause of everything you manage to find deteriorating, everything getting worse or decreasing, and also just this constant inability to be satisfied with anything in your environment. The next misdeed of the mind is ill will, being happy about the suffering of others. So the consistent consequence is that if you have the cause of being happy when other people are unhappy, the karmic consequence is that no one will help you when you need it. People will be unwilling to help you be happy. You'll be without the help you need when you need it. The environmental result is chaos and disease. You've wished bad things on others, so guess what happens, right? You can be living in an area where you're constantly having to be in fear of being mugged or hurt in some way. And then the last one, wrong views. I think I mentioned it already. It's this ignorant stupidity thing, right? That's one of the consistent results, and you become a very deceitful person. Environmentally, you will live in a world where the single highest source of happiness will be steadily disappearing from the world. And that is a long way of saying Dharma will be disappearing from your world. And Dharma, remember we said before, Dharma doesn't have to be Buddha's Dharma, right? Any spiritual teaching that would help you be happier would be disappearing. You will live in a world where religion is disappearing. And people who think things that are actually unclean are clean, where they're after this. Fashion magazines are a real interesting example that the teachers have often used because they're in the business of selling the concept of beauty, right? And it's about encouraging desire, right? And so they have these pencil thin models who are all made up. And Geshe would say, like, if you could actually see their insides on the outsides, right? It wouldn't be so pleasant. We're all really just a bag of, some bags are just prettied up more than others, but really, but we mistake that. We mistake the temporary and impermanent appearance for something that is pure and clean. And that's the realm of unhappiness. That's actually the definition of consumer capitalism, right? Where things that are impure we think are pure. things that actually can't make us happy. Remember, nothing can make you happy. We think they can, right? So your environment becomes a world where there is no place to go, no one can protect you, and there is no real refuge. But see, that's if you completely blow it, and none of you are blowing it, right? These are all reasons to keep your 10 virtues. They're the opposite of the non-virtues, right? Okay. So, moving on. Yeah, we're kind of racing through this last bit, but well, it's a summary. It's a review, and so we are just hitting the crucial points, the highlights. And so, have you taken? Yeah. Okay. So this is a really good introduction, and then when you get a chance to go back and do ACI 9, then all of this gets really beautifully explained in quite a bit of detail and commentary. So, but these are the highlights. These are the important points. So back to the Lam Rim. Oh, right. The last couple of classes, I think the last 3 classes of Course 9 focuses on Jetsunkapa's Lam Rim. So the first 7 classes are all about the Vinaya, and using the Abhidharma Kosha as the main sort of volume of information. And then in the last 3 classes of the original course, Geshe-la does this beautiful thing where he pulls out the Lam Rim in which to then expound on how to live this, how to live the Vinaya, how to make it practical for you. And I love this about the teachings, is that it is all about not only the intellectual knowledge. Yes, we need the information. Yes, we need to aspire to being spiritually more open-minded. But at the end of the day, we have to practice, or it's just a bunch of blah blah, right? So the overview of the Lam Rim, the steps to the path, is what happens in the last 3 classes of the long playing dance version of ACI 9. Okay, we're going to do this in the last 45 minutes of this class. Okay, so by the way, the Lam Rim, that is a Tibetan word, and it really is the Tibetans' gift to all of us. They took the original teachings that went right from India to Tibet, and they took them and they wrote them down, like they recorded them in a step-by-step guidebook. They took all of the teachings and gave us this manual to enlightenment. Want to be a Buddha? Here, it's and the Lam Rims, and there's many of them. There's many different kinds of Lam Rims, but they all talk about the same thing in different ways. There's basically, you could divide Buddhism into a couple of lineages. One being the lineage of compassion, or the altruistic activity, and then the other one being the wisdom, the emptiness side of things. So that's the karma and the emptiness, right? We could say. And we've got Manjushri on one side with the wisdom, and Maitreya with the other side of compassion. And then they say both lineages were brought together by Lord Atisha, who was one of the first Indian teachers to bring Buddhism to Tibet. He's the one that's famous for having gone to, I think, Indonesia to find a specific teacher. And he observed him for 12 years before even asking him. And then finally the teacher said, I don't know if I'm going to take you on as my student. You watched me for 12 years, I'm going to watch you for 12 years now. Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, he made that trip twice. I think Lord Atisha ended up making that trip a couple of times to bring this, the Lam Rim back, the literature back, the steps to enlightenment. So, yeah, it's like a user's manual. It's an assembly kit. How to build a Buddha. The Buddha you, right? Yeah. So the Lamrim is an overview of all the special steps that it takes. But you know, it's really good to know what the special qualities of a Lamrim are. We were just saying this on the radio show earlier, but all these teachings, not only are they great in that they give you practical applications, but they always tell you what's in it for you. They usually tell you that at the very beginning before they tell you how much work it's going to be. But, you know, they do give you the benefits, the special qualities. So here's the 4, this is I think the homework question. Explain briefly the 4 special qualities of a Lamrim. So the first step, or the one quality of the 4 is that you realize that all the steps, so Lam can mean like all the steps, or it can mean an individual step along the steps too, okay? So you realize that all the steps are either direct or indirect factors to reaching your enlightenment. And that absolutely all the teachings of the Buddha have no inconsistency, which can actually be a little confusing because even straight out of the canon, it can seem contradictory sometimes. The 3 turnings of the wheel are contradictory, actually, in these 3 turnings of Lord Buddha. The first one, he said, things exist. Second one, he said nothing exists. Third one, he said some things exist, some things don't. You know, like, which one was right? But actually, stick around for ACI 15 and you'll understand that they were all right. But that's what they're saying here right now. There are no inconsistencies. And
that's all the first one?
Yeah, that's all the first one. You realize that all the steps are either direct or indirect factors to your enlightenment, that there are no inconsistencies. That's all the one. You also, within that, as you study more, and actually, you know what, you'll realize this even after you have a handful of ACI courses under your belt, you'll really notice how it all just dovetails beautifully together, too. That's 1. So 2 is that you realize that all of the high speech of the Buddha is personal advice for you. Personal. This is a really nice way to walk into a class, is if you have any sort of dilemma or question, rather than actually asking it in class, is to sit on the question, like ask it in your heart, say, be open to the answer, and inevitably by the time class is ended, or shortly thereafter, I swear, 9 times out of 10, the answer will have been revealed to you. Yeah. Or you will hear something in class. I often get this where I hear something that I didn't even know I was asking that question, but they just gave me the answer. And when I get the answer, you get this aha moment. You realized, actually, that was something you were wondering for a very long time, you know? So like that, the teachings become personal advices for you.
Cool.
Third, you will grasp the true intent of the Buddhas, how each and every teaching is only for your enlightenment. Every part of the Dharma is directed towards getting you enlightened. And the 4th special quality of the Lamrim is that you will be protected. This is a quote. You will be protected from making the great mistake, which means that you won't reject any of the teachings because you do realize. You know how they say, even if you hear a teaching, you shouldn't just accept it on faith, but you shouldn't diss it? You shouldn't just reject it outright, because when you are ready to hear it, the teaching may reveal itself to you, or the understanding may come when you have more information, you know, or more experience. So you are protected from rejecting any of the teachings. And that's pretty cool. That's really all we're going to say about the Lamrim, because the Lamrim itself, the foundational step of the Lamrim is finding your teacher. And the last homework question on this section is going to be asking what 10 qualities you should be looking for in a spiritual teacher, in a spiritual guide. And I know some of you have this memorized backwards and forwards, but it's a really good one to review. And if you've never heard this before, these are qualities that you should be looking for. Because you know what? The Lamrim says, the very first one, I'm just going to quote you Jetsun Kapa's short Lamrim, which is the source of all my good. It starts off by saying, the source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. So the very, very first step, before you're even on the steps, is to find your teacher. And then, really, sometimes you can divide the Lamrim two ways. Finding your teacher and everything else. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what they say. So, or finding your teacher and then doing what they tell you to do. Because, you know, that can often be, finding the teacher is not necessarily the hardest thing, although, you know, there's often around Dharma circles, everyone's like, who's my teacher? And, you know, there's always this great doubt about who's my teacher. But really, it's not about who's your teacher. It's about who are you going to listen to other than your own self, right? Because if teachers are only your teachers when it's convenient, then who's your teacher really?
Yeah.
Right? And we need a teacher. We need some, because you know what? If we didn't need a teacher, we would be enlightened already. Mm-hmm. And that's a good way to check. Am I there yet? It's yeah. So there's 10 qualities you should look for. And you know, the ancient texts do say you should spend 12 years finding this person. I often find that numbers in ancient texts, well, 12 appears consistently, 82,000 appears consistently, and 76,000 appears consistently. So, you know, the cycle of a sadhana or the cycle of is often 12. So it's interesting that there are 12 months in a year. That, right? It's interesting the way, in the lunar calendar, there's 12, or the horoscope, right? That number appears a lot. So
12 inches and a foot.
Yeah, there's a lot of significance around that number. So in the great stories of yoga and tantra and the Mahasiddhas, often the practices are for 12 years. Mm-hmm. So it's important to know a few things about these qualities. I'm going to go through the laundry list of 10, but really the main quality is the teacher should touch your heart. There should be, you know, that's why sometimes we call them our heart teacher. You should kind of fall in love with them. It's a good sign if they fill your mind for a while, night and day. And, you know, you can't just quite get them out of your head. And because that is their job, to be inside your head. And, you know, they should be someone who's happy. They should be someone who demonstrates some of the results of having had realizations. And remember we said a long time ago in this class that a sign of a successful practice is that you will be happier? Of any spiritual practice, the ultimate promise is that you will be ultimately happy. So those are a couple things. Those are not out of the classic 10, but those are two things that we're saying should be there. Because Jason Kappa said it's really hard to find someone with all these 10. So try to find someone with 5. At the very least, the top 3. Okay? Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, they really should touch your heart. And they really should be someone who's appears to you to be happy. We have a habit of romanticizing our teachers. You know, a lot of people claim that His Holiness the Dalai Lama is their teacher, having never ever sat at his feet, right? I've attended His Holiness's teachings here when I was like in row 1008 on, in the, was it, GM Place, or actually I was closer the last time he was here. When he was here at the Vogue Theater. I was definitely closer, but still, You know, and did I absolutely adore the teaching? Yes. Is he my direct Lama? No. Is he definitely in my lineage? Absolutely. You know, but it's really convenient to have a Lama, they say, who is 3 valleys away, because you never actually have to, you never really get tested. But and they'll never really challenge you much. But I bet if you were at the feet of His Holiness, you would be challenged. You know? So, Yalamaji says, if you were hanging out with His Holiness night and day, I guarantee you he would push your buttons. They often say that your relationship with your teacher needs to be like a fire. You need to be close enough to feel the warmth, you feel the heat, but not so close that you get burned. Yeah. And again, you know, I just said, Jason Kappa said it's really rare to find all 10 qualities. The reality is, if you could clearly see the 10 qualities, you wouldn't need a guru. Okay? Like, if you could see someone as a perfectly enlightened being, I mean, that is, by the way, I'm let you know a secret, one of the highest practices is that you're supposed to be seeing your teachers as enlightened beings. But if you truly did see that, who are you, right? Like, you could only see what's in you. So if you could see a teacher with perfectly all 10 qualities, you wouldn't need them, because you would have them too already, right? A guru is a perfect mirror for your own karma. So this is the other thing. You know, we do see our teachers as pretty perfect. That's a good sign, because they're reflecting the highest and the best in you. Okay? But to see a perfect guru right from the start is a bit of a contradiction, because you wouldn't need one. And don't beat yourself up if you're having a hard time seeing your teachers as perfect, because you know what? They will be perfect when you are. And until you are, you will not see them that way. Okay, so let's get on to the list of 10. So, sorry, before we do that, by the way, if you can't see any of those qualities, why would they be your teacher, okay? Or if they're somehow worse than you, like if you want to master piano, you're not going to go to someone who doesn't know how to play the piano, okay? Like, you want to have someone who is at least better than you. Because they say if you learn from someone at the same level as you, you're not going to excel. And if they're worse than you, guess what's going to happen to you, right? So, yeah. Try to see at least... Okay, I'm going to say one other thing. This is not in the review, but I find this really, really important. This was advice Jason Kappa gave about the teachers, that they said you should make your list. You know, your pro list and your con list, your positive list and your negative list. Make that list and then throw the negative list away and focus on the positives. That's not about denial. It's about what is going to serve you the most in terms of what you need, because it's not coming from them anyways, right? Yeah. Okay. So now we'll get on to the list of 10. 1. Say Dulwa.
Dulwa.
Now, wasn't Dulwa another term for Vinaya, right? Dulwa is Tibetan for Vinaya, but Dulwa is also the first quality, which means to be controlled ethically.
Controlled at the...
Ethically.
Oh, ethically.
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 To be leading an ethical life. To have their themselves in check, reined in like a horse, right? So they call it control sometimes, just simply. So dulwa, they should be controlled ethically. You should have the karma to see them leading an ethical life, okay? Second one is Shiwa. Say Shiwa.
Shiwa.
Shiwa is peace. Peaceful. They should be possessing the training of concentration. You should at least think they're good at meditation. How do you know if they're good at meditation? Because you can't necessarily peek into their meditation room or their seat when they're meditating, right? Couple ways can they teach meditation. And when they teach, does it sound like they know what they're talking about? Do they get Lamaji says, do they jiggle? But, but have you ever sat with someone where their leg is going like this and they're constantly fidgety and jittery and have any of you met Lama Ora?
Yeah. Ora Sundara?
Yeah. Can't you just feel? She did the original 3-year retreat. They're all like that. But you can just feel the deep and profound stillness. And it's not that she's, she may be talking to you, but you just get this, it's almost like I don't know, I always feel like a big hug. Like you're just in this embrace of serenity. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, it's something that I think it's a natural progression of practiced ease of meditation, and people can sense it in you, right? So you can sense that in your teacher. She's my best example because I remember meeting her for the first time and just having this profound sensation of seeing the fruits of extended meditation. This was before I started doing my retreats, and it was the best advertisement for wanting to do retreat, let me tell you. Right. And right, Leonardo, from being on the Lama's property and just feeling the stillness from when you enter the gates, yeah, like that. Meditators aren't nervous types of people, okay? They're not anxiety ridden, or even if they're busy, they handle it differently than, someone who's flying around like a chicken with their head cut off. So, okay, so that's a good sign. 3, near Shiva is completely peaceful. So this is possessing the training of wisdom. And this is having some strong, deep intellectual understanding of emptiness. They can explain the pen to you in 7,000 ways.
7,000.
Well, they say that we need to hear it 7,000 times to actually get it, right? Have you heard that one? So, number 4 out of the 10. They should be better than you. They should have qualities that exceed yours. And this is what I was saying before. Like, why would you take a teacher who's worse than you? Who appears to be, worse somehow in all the ways that you don't want to be. So you want to find someone who is somehow emulating the life that you would like to live, that you would like to have. They should know better than you how to live a happy life. And then you should submit to them, and that's the hard part. Remember I said find a teacher and then listen, like do what they say? It's not even just listen, it's like listen and do what they say. That's the hard part. That submission part is hard. It's hard enough to admit that someone knows more than you. It's another thing to submit to what they ask you to do. The first thing is to go find a teacher. Second thing is to say, please teach, please teach. The third thing is not to say, no, I don't want to do that. Or no, I don't believe I can do that. Like that's when your teacher believes in you and you're like, get this sort of spiritual self-doubt. She could reach enlightenment, but I don't know if I can. And if your teacher has said, no, you do this, you'll get there. Then if we say, oh, sorry, Lama, you've got me wrong, right? Like, it's not gonna play out very well for you. It really is this resistance. It's this whole layer of resistance we have to actually being happy. Stop saying no to the things that are actually going to make you happy. Have you seen the movie? Oh, what's it called? It's the one with the actor. It's an old movie. Lama Marut prescribed it. I'm always giving you movies that I can't remember, right?
Well, no, usually you remember though.
Well, I
You
remember.
say
I don't
things.
remember the titles though. I don't remember the
Yeah.
titles. But this is the one where it's about the main character is Chancey Gardner.
Ooh.
He's a gardener and he's a butler.
Being
or like
There.
Being There.
With,
Yes.
The actor. Oh yes, I love that.
The actor who
movie.
plays
Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers.
Yes,
That's right. Not who
yes.
plays Peter Sellers. Peter Sellers.
sorry. Yeah.
But in this movie,
That's really
he says yes to everything. He never says no. Like as a practice, you should watch the movie.
It's a great movie.
I think it's from the 60s or
And Shirley MacLaine is in it, isn't she?
it's an old movie,
It's an
but
old-
it's and you know at the beginning of this movie you're wondering like is he an idiot? Like is this Peter Sellers' character is he like something not there? And in a way they kind of play that aspect up, but he's always saying yes, open to the possibility. You got to see the last scene. I won't tell you what the last scene is, but you've got to see the last scene. You don't need Kleenex. But you got to see the last. Oh, you got to see the last scene. I would rent it on Netflix just to see the last scene. Okay, you got Dharma homework. You got to see the last scene. Okay, it's
That's not
Is it on Netflix?
but I don't know, but we did find it on somewhere when Lama Marut assigned this, and he did assign this within the last 5 years, so I'm pretty sure you can
He
still find
assigned
it
it.
somewhere. Dharma homework.
Wow.
I'll go find it and can come to my house.
Yeah, have a little movie night watching Being There.
Dharma, yeah. It's a good
Just stop saying no to the things that make you happy. Okay, the fifth one, this is one of my favorite ones. I like the Sanskrit word for this, virya, always sticks in my mind. Joyous effort. But for some reason, virya has more oomph to it for me. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. So your teacher should be happy, working hard to achieve the ultimate goals for themselves and for others. They should be, you should see them making great effort and taking great joy in making the effort. They do understand that the very best thing they can be doing for themselves is to be working very, very hard for their spiritual life. And there is joy in it. I like the word delight. They take delight in working hard for their spiritual practices. The sixth quality is that they should be rich in scripture. They should be able to tell you what their authoritative sources are and have studied the spiritual collections of the lineage that they happen to represent. But you know, what I love about our lineage is that I have learned more about other lineages, having studied in this one, than I did before I was in a lineage, you know? Because it's really true. Like we're all in the same business. We all have the same HQ. We're all in the business of being happy. And different lineages have different vocabulary, that's all. So it's useful to know something. 7, it's really good if they have a deep realization of suchness. And this technically means that your teacher has had a direct perception of emptiness, that they are an Arya. But again, they won't tell you they are, okay? But if you do happen to find out they are, that's a very good teacher to have because they can really, really show you how to get there. Number 8, they should be a master teacher. They should have upaya, skillful means. What that means is they should be able to teach to the student's capacity, neither too low so the student gets bored, nor too high so that the student gets bored, right? Like it shouldn't be condescending or patronizing, but it shouldn't be dumbed down either. The 9th quality is they should be the very image of love, is how it's defined, which means that their motivation for teaching is out of love for their students. They're not in it for personal gain or fame or fortune. They're in it to share this wisdom that has served them so well. And then the last one is defined as overcoming all distaste. What that means is they don't ever give up on you. They don't get tired of repeating over and over and over anything that you may need to hear. And they can deliver it in a fresh and new way. There's actually only so much to tell you.
Yeah.
There really is. It's all about carbon emptiness. You know, but to be able to teach it in a fresh and new way, someone who doesn't give up on you and teaches in a way that you will understand. So those are the 10, and at the beginning I said right over and above the 10 that they should really pull on your heartstrings, and that, you know, you should have a personal connection with them. They should also be able to push you out of your comfort zone. Because if you don't get pushed out of your comfort zone, you won't learn, and you won't push yourself. You won't. So those are the 10. That's about all we're going to review of the ACI 9. And so the actual formal course does break that down a lot more. But of those 10, Jades encompasses at least the first 5 or the first 3 as minimum, right? So the first 3 are really what they call the 3 extraordinary trainings. Yeah, and it's the extraordinary trainings of ethics, concentration, and wisdom that really we're trying to cultivate in ourselves. So that's at a minimum what you're looking for in a teacher. Okay. Any questions? Any homework questions I haven't covered because I haven't been so good about comparing my homework.
Misha did this
No, I think
months
you're
ago,
probably
and I'm
wrong.
just starting to catch on.
Technically, I have to tell you, you're not supposed to be filling out your answers in class. I will tell you that.
Okay.
You are supposed to be open book sharing, like doing homeworks amongst yourselves,
Okay.
but to fill out the answers as you're getting the download is actually skipping a step. Like to make your notes and then to do your homework, because you want to review it. And if you've already filled it out, then you've skipped
Gotcha.
one review.
Okay.
It's not wrong. It's just I'm just clarifying it now that
I
it's.
saw it once and sorry, I shouldn't have said her name.
No, and it's not. But it's just. I mean, I understand how it's attractive to do that, but.
I haven't done it all the time. Okay. Oh, we'll consider it to not be repeated.
But have I missed any homework questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. No.
Okay, so that is actually the end of Class 8, which is the end of ACI Course 9 review. Next week and the week after, our last 2 classes for the year will be the review course of ACI 10, Master Shanti Deva's course, which some of you did just take with John and I. But it's a really, really beautiful review to do. And then we'll break for the holidays, and we'll reconvene in the first week of January with ACI 11. And you know the new format is we're going to do 5 weeks of Tuesdays, and then we're going to have a debate night on the 6th week, and we're going to specifically review the course material from the first 5. And so if anyone new drops in, that's okay. They'll get a review of the first 5 courses, and then we'll pick up with the last 5, and then there will be a final debate night in week 12, which will review the final exam. So after that debate session, you will be able to write your final exam, no problem.
I have a question.
Yes.
If I'm finished the last course and I just have a little bit and I'm done, do I bring it to you to be corrected?
Oh, for marking.
Yes.
You know what? You can, but also anyone who has completed 2 ACI courses minimally, and you know all the homeworks, quizzes, and finals, they can mark your work too.
Okay.
So, and there are more and more of them in
Okay.
the 3 jewel circles. We used to have a Google list of people who could teach. I don't know if we've kept them up to date or not, but
No.
markers. Yeah.
Yeah, is there one person that looks after that, or?
the Google Drive,
Yeah. That
there should
file?
be. I don't think it's been updated since it first got loaded, and I think maybe Mishi loaded that. I'm not sure, or did Floriana
I think
load
it
that?
came from you.
Originally?
I thought it
Originally
from
came
you.
from you.
Well, I sent it, but did I actually make it?
Oh, I don't know.
Have any of you done more than 2? Do any of you want to mark on ACI 17? Okay. And you'll have to find time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. And again, you know, if any one of you need me to do it, I'm happy to. But it is good if you guys start marking your own stuff too. And then well, the instructions are on the Google Drive, but you know that once you do mark them, then the marks have to be emailed to, I think it's Sherri that still does it, and then she will mail you a certificate. And they keep track of all of our stuff at Diamond Mountain headquarters, and it's really, really sweet. Like, you're actually in their registry and at the end of it, when you guys do get to the end of all the courses and end of ACI 18, you get this final completion certificate.
Wow.
It's really cool. And then you get a little Maroc ceremony here. But that'll be coming up. I think more and more people are going to be ready to Maroc next year and the year after. So that's pretty exciting, actually. Not next year? Year after?
Still have a long
I
way
think I
to-
said June. Yeah,
First
I think I
course
said
in.
June 2015.
Yeah,
That's
Okay.
what my goal is.
Okay, that's a decent goal. That's
I think what I
doable.
said.
go from our Lama.
Yeah.
2015, end of 2000.
Okay.
Finish ACI, everything.
Yeah.
That's my,
Yeah.
that's what she
I think
gave
that's
me.
what I said.
Yeah.
I have one question after class. Can I
That's
ask
okay.
you? Oh,
Go ahead.
no, it's too personal.
Okay.
After class, I just
But I
wanted to book you for if I could. Okay.
Okay, so let's dedicate.
Okay. Oops. Sashi puki jukshin meito tram rira bingshi nyande genpadi sange shindu mikte uwai Girokunamdak Shingla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Nivayatayami Gewadi Gewokun Sunam Yeshe Tzotzok Shing Sunam Yeshe Lejunwe Dampakuni Doparsho. Thank you, everybody. Just wanted to remind you guys that on December 21st, we're having our last Great Pledge Meditation Marathon Day. December 22nd, there's going to be a vegan bake sale here from one of Farah's lovely friends. What's her name?
Yasminka.
Yasminka. And it'll be from 3 to 7 here, and it's a vegan bake shop sale with proceeds going to 3 Jewels. And then we are closed to the public, but we are going to be, there's a work party on December the 29th where we're going to be cleaning the place and doing a major year-end purification. So if any of you are available and can come out and help for that, it'll be great. And I'm going to put an email out soon, but we are also putting a call out to new board members. If anyone's thinking of maybe serving a little bit differently, we could use about 3 new people on the board. And you could also wean yourself in gently too by joining our committees or something. So we're going to have a little info session at the end of the day on the 29th, if anyone can make it. And then if you want to hang around for the board meeting, we usually end up at a restaurant nearby. I think we're going to go to Peaceful down here, which is a really lovely Chinese restaurant. So if you can, please come out for that. And don't worry, being on the board is not scary, okay? It's actually a lot of fun and a really lovely way to serve also. So I'll put an email out soon for that. Or if you know anyone who would be good for that role also. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Have
So-
a good week.
When you say if we know anyone, it's somebody who
Well,
comes
maybe,
here,
yeah, who's not here, because we don't
Yeah.
have everybody here and
right? Not like someone who doesn't come.
off the street. No, they would, unless they were like I don't know, a kick-ass business manager who could get us our charitable status and like,
Oh.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
but there's definitely, I mean, we're going to go for that anyways. We're going to, but you know, we could probably use some more business skills on the board. I don't know, but really, they would have to have some sort of vested interest in wanting to contribute to the success of the center and what we have to offer. But it's
And someone
not.
who has the time.
Yeah, but it's not, you know, like the meetings happen once a month, but not, like I think maybe at most it's 10 meetings a year. And then it's all project based, right? And we get everybody involved in all of that organization. So, but it's actually a very beautiful way to serve. It's like the next level of service, right? So, and what we're trying to do, especially if once we do have our formal charitable status, and we need to have an official board, and we need to be rotating that every couple of years. So, we want to make sure that nobody gets burned out, and that everyone has a chance and an opportunity to serve if they want to, also. So,
I'm interested, but I'm in my second term, and I was elected to the chair of the board of Co-op
of
Radio.
Co-op Radio, yeah.
So just keep me in mind in 2 years. My
Fantastic.
term will be up, and I'll have lots of board governance.
We'll have you
skills.
as a board. We'll have a placeholder for you because that would be
On the
fantastic.
workshop.
Yeah, no, that's really important, and that's what we want to do. So on the 29th, it'll be more like an info session, and just for general, you know, people are curious and not quite sure, just like debate practice. Sometimes it's good to find out and hear about it, right?
Yeah.
But then usually, if you hear about it, you'll get all juiced to do the Viria part, and yeah, and it's really good to have new energy on it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you.